Once upon a time, I went to a Piggly Wiggly.
Once upon a time, I saw a Piggly Wiggly.
This is a real thing, y'all.
They are real things. Cheers. YA didn't exist really when I was a kid. It was just starting out because we were both of the generation where Harry Potter was just becoming a thing. And so YA was there, but it wasn't necessarily like a dominating force in a bookstore. And then there was Twilight, and then there was Harry Potter, and then there was this explosion that is YA lit today.
That is our history of YA in a nutshell.
Harry Potter, the source of all YA. I always read at a very high level, and so I was always having to go up in reading levels. And I love fantasy, so any book on this blog, you can probably, if it's fantasy, you can probably guess that it's me. I don't read a lot of real things. And I basically scoured the bookshelves of my local high school for any book that I could possibly find that had to do with fantasy, which was really hard because I'd read 90% of them. And the other 10% I had no interest in reading because they were boy adventure time books.
I was homeschooled, and I would go to the library for French classes because I had a tutor. And so I would stay late after my French lesson, and I would check out 4 or 5 different books, read halfway through one of them, and then I'd go home with all of them in my backpack and be like, oh yeah, class ran late. How old were you when you read Lord of the Rings for the first time?
I was probably in high school because I hated it, and I hated it.
I had a babysitter who was reading Lord of the Rings, and she was like 15, and she was like, I'm reading this book, it's really awesome, and I was like, my mom has that book, I could read it too. So I decided to read it, and so I was 9 when I read Lord of the Rings.
That good Catholic boy. Favorite YA book?
From way back when.
From way back when. Oh my gosh, that's scary. I actually have one that I do read over and over, pretty much once a year.
Do you still do that?
I do, it's so bad. This is actually my favorite YA book, Crown Jewel. It's actually 2 books. It's an omnibus. I always loved the second half, the second book, which is called Court Duel. So the first book is about a girl who has basically been plotting a revolution with her family her entire life. And the first book is the revolution, and they overthrow the king, and the king is a horrible person, and she kind of gets chased across the country, and all of these crazy things happen to her. And then the second book is sort of about what happens after, and how do you fix a kingdom, and sort of how do you also recover yourself.
Everything?
After you've destroyed everything, there's a point where she chucks a candlestick at the future king. All this, it's full of court drama, and any time that there can be court drama,
yeah,
I will be there.
That's pretty good.
I will be there with bells on.
That's how I felt about the Westmarc trilogy, like, by Lloyd Alexander. I read the whole Black Cauldron series, and I was like, this is okay. But then I read the Westmarc trilogy, and I was like,
I think I checked it out from the library 3 or 4 times when it showed up. They have some of my favorite moments. Very much like Pride and Prejudice. It's very much full of, like, you know, Pride and Prejudice. I do appreciate a little romance in my YA, I'm not gonna lie. I did finally talk my mother into reading Court Duel.
How did that go?
It went really well. She was like, oh, I read, you know that book you're always reading, Gretchen, when you're home? And I was like, yeah, I do know that book. What's up with the book? And she's like, I read it. It was okay. And I was like, you mean it was awesome?
You're like, false.
False! It was epic.
My YA, I really, really, really have to go back to Mara, Daughter of the Nile. Eloise Jarvis McGraw is a goddess. The end. I loved all of her books. I think I read all of them. I read all the ones I could get my hands on in the library. Mara, Daughter of the Nile is this awesome little story about, you know, an unusual looking slave in Egypt during the reign of Queen Hatshepsut, and we could never agree on how to pronounce her name, and by we, I mean my 3 friends who were absolutely obsessed with this book along with me. And she falls in love with this dude named Sheftu, who actually is like a nobleman. And they like raid a tomb in the middle of the night to get certain things that they need to start a revolution, and it's like the whole thing is like really intense and really awesome, and she's this like badass. I read it over and over, probably twice a year for years and years. It's basically like worn to pieces and like dropped in 3 bathtubs, and like I don't know if you can even read it anymore. I also have a penchant for romance novels, which sometimes makes my feminist side do this. I'm a bad feminist.
Hannah can judge me. People are not things. Women are not things. Women are human beings, and they do not give up their autonomy or their human being status because they decide to sleep with you. or date you.
Shocker!
What?
How about that?
Oh my god! Let's
Dear
have
internet,
this app.
get this right.
Women
are not objects.
You're not gonna even listen to me at that point.
Smile and nod.
I mean, but you really don't listen to me now.
What?
What? See? Point, internet! I win! Look at it. It's so pretty. I'm making Hannah mad, everybody.
I am the queen of reading on the sly.
Names.
Names.
Whatever.
I'm bad with names.
Hannah is really bad with names.
I'm just gonna be like, that person! Like a loser.
Aww.
Okay.